Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Blue Truth and Bourbon. I'm your host, Steve. I think we're on our 10th episode, ninth or 10th. I think it's the 10th episode. So we've reached a milestone. So excited to be here tonight. Hopefully, as people start logging in, we'll get some comments or some questions in. If you're watching this when it's taped, don't be afraid to leave me some questions or comments. Always welcome the debate. Always welcome the back and forth. I think that's what makes these live podcasts that much better, is when the audience is involved. So looking forward to tonight. Tonight, let me go ahead and grab him here. We are talking with Mark DiBona. Mark is a retired law enforcement officer and a co-founder of Protecting the Guardian. And tonight we're going to be talking about mental health and law enforcement, and the traumas that we see and the things that we're exposed to, and how that affects us individually, and how that affects us as a society, if you will, of law enforcement. And so hopefully you guys will enjoy this. And if you are here live, don't hesitate to comment. And if you're watching this later, don't forget to pass it along to others that need to hear this message, because this is an important message. Mark and I have talked a couple of times here before we went live, and talked tonight before the show. And I think this is going to be beneficial to a lot of people. So Mark, thanks for being here. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about you?
Okay, well, thank you, my brother. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be on the show. I'll tell you, I've been looking forward to this. So my name is Mark DiBona. I'm a retired cop of 33 years. I did 8 in Massachusetts and 25 in Seminole County. I retired as a patrol sergeant. Through my career, I was a public information officer. I worked street crimes. I worked traffic, DUI. And I really, actually, I love being a cop. That's the way of us. The only way of saying it. And I really enjoyed the job. I enjoyed the brotherhood, the sisterhood, and I very much enjoyed catching the bad guy. But one thing I lapsed in my career was my mental health wellness. And we're going to get to that in a little while. So I retired. It'll be 6 years ago next month. I retired. It's been a true blessing. One of the things I used to tell the guys and girls all the time at work is when I retire, I'm going to grow my hair long, and obviously I did. These aren't extensions. So and why did I grow my hair long? Is, well, number one, I'm really big into music, but it just makes me feel good. I don't know if that makes sense or not. But it was just something. Yep.
That's why I got this stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Same here. I get the rocking the beard also. Except I get so much gray right here, and show my age. So I've been married for 33 years to the same woman. So that's a plus. So it's not the typical cop marriage.
I was going to say a rarity in law enforcement.
Yeah, absolutely. And we met in Massachusetts, moved to Florida, no kids, and that's by choice. But funny I should say that is because actually today is National I Love Your Pet Day, and so we have 2 dogs, Romeo and Bella. Romeo's my service dog, and he's just like. He's truly amazing. He's like one of my best friends, And then we have Romeo. She's a small little rat terrier. And life is good. Life is really good. I enjoyed my career. I enjoyed helping people. And you hear in police interviews, why do you want to be a cop? I want to help people. And everybody says, well, that's cliche. Well, it is to a point, but there's nothing better than helping someone in need,
Sure.
and they say thank you to you. That's mission accomplished. Sure. And believe me, I love chasing the bad guy. I liked all that stuff. But when you actually helped a true victim of crime, or somebody that was out of luck, or whatever it was, that's mission accomplished.
Right. Well, I should say, before we get too deep into this, for everybody that watches it now or later, a little disclaimer: neither Mark nor I are therapists. We're going to talk a lot about some stuff. We're going to offer you some. Mark's probably going to have a lot more to offer you on resources and stuff like that as we talk about his organization. And but we're not selling a specific brand or therapy. We are just offering what we have, And I would say that it's up to each individual, because we're all individuals. We are all affected in a different way, to do your own research and find someone that you're comfortable with, someone that fits your needs. So just because we're talking about a particular resource tonight doesn't mean that we're selling you that.
Mhm.
It's for your benefit, for research purposes. And so we want you to look into finding a place where you fit, where you're comfortable. So
100%.
Mark, I figured we'd start out tonight with your story. I've
Yep.
heard your story. There's probably a bunch of people that are going to watch this eventually that have been involved in CIT classes throughout the Central Florida area, that have probably heard your story. But I think it's important we get it, here captured, for posterity, if you will, and something that the folks can pass along, or recommend for somebody to watch later on down the road. So um, it's all yours. Share, as much or as little as you feel like you want to.
Okay, sounds good. Well, earlier I was nodding my head no, and so I wasn't saying no to what you were saying. Just give you, let's put the disclaimer out there. My wife just got home from work and she was looking for the dog. She was talking to me in sign language, and I don't speak sign language,
Yeah.
so I all I know is no. So I wasn't disagreeing with you by any means,
Sure.
And she's camera shy. I'd bring her over here, but she's camera shy. But okay. So talk about my story. So my story is very personal. And what I mean by very personal is I talk about the traumas in my life, including childhood trauma, adult trauma, and things like that. Because as we know, our childhood trauma and our adult trauma is going to affect our job one way or another. Okay. So I grew up in a single parent home. My mother raised three of us. My mother was my role model. I was a mama's boy. She since has passed away. I love and respect my mother. I miss her. I pray for her every day. I miss her. And my mother was my role model because at one time she was working three jobs. And she was very, very dedicated to her family, very dedicated to doing what's right for her kids. She would leave for work sometimes at 5, 6 in the morning and not get home until 9, 10 o'clock at night. And she always had her lunches packed for us. She took time to do our homework with us. And one of the reasons why I bring my mom in is the stress of that. She turned to alcohol for a coping skill. And obviously that's an unhealthy coping skill. And she used to drink quite a bit. And it was very difficult to see your mom declining because of alcohol, physically and probably mentally also. So my mother was dating this guy. His name was Richie, and I never had like a positive male role model in my growing up, because again I lived in a single parent home. So this guy Richie, I was about 10 years old. He came in and he started taking me to Red Sox games because I grew up in Boston. So I taking me to Red Sox games, hanging out with him. He was my baseball coach, and I was like, wow, I could finally look up to somebody and start looking at him as a positive role model. Well, it was going good, and then it turned to sexual abuse. And I don't talk about my sexual abuse for pity because I'm a survivor. I'm not a victim. But he did some nasty stuff to me. Now, how does that affect my law enforcement career? Well, how it affects your law enforcement career is because number one, sexual abusers are bullies. They're narcissists, they're bullies, and they're nasty people. And they take advantage of people. And not so just because you're a bit, if you had sexual abuse in your history, it's not that you're weak. It's just that they know how to manipulate you. They know how to talk to you, and things like that. So when I got calls for a sexual abuse call, I started thinking of my personal trauma about that, and I wanted to go into that call and knock the bad guy out. And I don't profess police brutality, so don't take that the wrong way. But when I was driving there, I started thinking about my own trauma, and I could feel my chest getting tight. I could feel anxiety coming on, and all that. So that affected my career. So let's talk a little bit about my career. So I started off in 1985 in Braintree, Massachusetts, small town just out of Boston, south of Boston. I worked for them for about 2.5, 3 years. From there, I went on to the Amtrak police. A lot of people know Amtrak has a police department. I was an Amtrak cop up till 1992. I got laid off, unfortunately. Had a very difficult time finding a job in Massachusetts. Florida police jobs market was wide open then. So myself and 2 friends of mine, my wife, obviously, we moved to Florida, put myself through the academy, got hired by a small department called Avon Park, and then went on to Summerlin County Sheriff's Office from there. And I retired as a patrol sergeant. I prided myself as a cop's cop, a very old school, we take care of each other cop.
Right.
We take care of each other, we protect each other, but we don't turn our back on bad cops either, because a good cop does not like a bad cop. And any cop that's a decent cop is going to say, no, I'm not going to tolerate a bad cop. Some kind of sheriff's office for 25 years, 19 of them I was a sergeant. I also prided myself on the guys and girls that I led, not supervised, that I led, because I put myself as a leader, not as a supervisor. And I use this quote all the time. I work for several supervisors, but very few leaders. And so I wanted to be an approachable sergeant. I wanted to be hands-on with the guys and girls. If they're out there writing tickets, answering calls, taking reports, making arrests, well, guess what? I should be out there with them.
Right.
And you get a lot of respect from people like that.
Yeah.
And I also profess to the guys and girls that family comes first. The agency does not come first. Oh, somebody said, well, the agency pays your mortgage, pays your car payment, and all that stuff. I get that. But let me tell you something. And we're going to go really deep here for a second. You may love the job, but the job doesn't love you. And that's sad. You ever think, Steve, way back in the day when we got sworn in, that we'd be talking about this? You know what I mean? Just
yeah. No, I had a conversation with someone the other day and just about going for requalification. And he's like, yeah, he says, I don't do that anymore. He says, I quit about 8 years ago going over there to do what I do it over here because, they treat you, we're all one big family until, you're done and they don't need anything from you anymore.
Right.
Then it's like you're the plague.
Or you piss them off.
Right.
Yeah. So so during my career, everything was going good. I was very much enjoying going to work. I was very much enjoying mentoring people that wanted to be a sergeant, leading by example, trying to project a very good positive image to the community, and just doing the right thing. Now, again, like I said earlier, don't get me wrong, I love chasing the bad guy too. Don't get me wrong. That's the thrill of victory, Yeah. So I had a new boss come in. I was a sergeant. I was a sergeant. I had a new boss come in, and he had a reputation of being a suck up, reputation of rubbing elbows with the bosses, selling his soul, things like that. So obviously, I didn't think too highly of him. But I said, something, I got to put my personal beliefs aside. Yeah, I've worked for bad bosses in the past. I'm sure I'll work for bad bosses in the future. And so let me just go in with an open mind. Well, we had a meeting, all the sergeants in that district, and he was just belittling us, talking down to us, saying quotes like, "Let me ask you guys a question. Do you golf and drink with the sheriff? I do. Can you pick up your cell phone and call the sheriff directly? I can." I can tell you, Steve, that's a buzzkill. Yeah, right. But again, I'm like, okay, no. So I got to the point in this meeting where I say this in my presentations all the time. It was a bobble doll meeting. If anybody's not familiar with a bobble doll meeting, people just sit there and shake their heads, and they don't say much. And then after the meeting, you go out in the parking lot, and you have another meeting, and you talk crap about the person that hosted the meeting. That's what cops do. Yep. I'm sure every job is like that. Probably would be my guess.
Sure.
So I said to him during the meeting, I said, listen, I'm tired of you belittling us, and I'm tired of you talking down to us. It's one thing, Steve, I had a reputation was no filter. I said it like it is, still do. Now I kind of sugarcoat a little bit more now because as I'm getting older. But I actually said to my wife the other day, I said, when I used to go off, damn, I tell you, that felt good. it felt good. But if you could suck back some of those words sometimes, but whatever. So, and you make your bed, you got to lie in it sometimes, So he took offense to that right away. And I remember he said something to me that had really stuck to me. He goes, "I'm going to make you the sergeant that I was." And I said, I got to be honest with you. You really weren't that good of a sergeant. You sucked as a deputy. So, So obviously, you see where me and him are going now. Nothing good's coming out of that. That's like telling your spouse to calm down. Never works out for you. I can tell you, my 33 years of marriage, calm down doesn't work out.
Absolutely.
So then we had individual meetings with him, and I'm an open book. I've been suspended. I've been written up. I've been counseled probably several times. And he's like, this will stop. I said, well, I don't go looking to get in trouble. I don't go looking to, but good working cops get in trouble. That it just comes with the job. You can't please everybody.
Right.
And as you know, some complaints are so far off the wall, it's pathetic. And there are other complaints. Well, there's probably something to it, and you address that.
Right.
And like we talked about off camera, I'm a firm believer of progressive discipline. You don't hammer somebody. You progressively discipline to get them focused and get them all that. Now, if you discipline 5 times in a year for the same thing, well, obviously there's a problem there, Right. So he started making my life miserable for me. He started micromanaging me, started talking down to me, and I would fire right back because he knew how to push my buttons. That was it. So this goes on for a while, and then he started doing something that really irritated me. Was as you know, Steve, sergeants do a daily report. Deputy so and so, made an arrest. Deputy, whatever happened, on your shift.
Right.
I used to work 5P to 5A, and I was on nights by choice. There's a few people that only want to work nights, and I loved working nights. I could sleep during the day without a problem. I loved working nights. And he would call me about 8:30 in the morning and say, hey, listen, I'm reading the daily report, and you need to put a comma after this word. I'm like, I was sleeping, right? He's like, you're on my schedule. I said, oh, okay. So I said, what do you want me to do, Lieutenant? I want you to put a comma after that word. So I go downstairs, put my laptop on, type in the comma, hit send, and try and go back to bed. And as you know, some people, when they wake up, they have a hard time falling back asleep. And I'm that type of person, Plus, I have sleep apnea. I got to take my mask off, and I got to, do all that stuff. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is a big deal.
Oh, absolutely.
And then he started denying my time off, denying my training, second guessing things I did, second guessing. But one thing he did, and I can't. I'm a Christian, but I have a hard time forgiving for this. Was he tried to turn my shift against me? And that's narcissism, And I was close to my shift, but there was a couple of people I was very close to.
Right.
And they were telling me that he would talk behind my back. He would ridicule me and on and on and on. And I'm like, something, that's not cool. That's not cool. Now we get the cop humor, right? If people walked into a group of cops talking, you swear we hate each other. Right. But that's just the ball busting and
Sure.
and all that. And I got to be honest with Steve, I miss that. I miss that 100%.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So I made an appointment with him. And when I walked into his office, he stood up and he put his arms out like this, and he started talking like he was from Boston. Like, Mark, you wicked pisser, you. Did you eat some chowder before you came in? And I looked at him, I go, you from Boston? He goes, no, I have to get down to your level. So right away, you start with insults. Well, I'm the wrong guy to insult because I'll fire right back at you. Yeah, and of course I fired right back at it. But what was he doing? He was baiting me. So then he started writing me up for ridiculous stuff. One time he wrote me up because my top button wasn't buttoned. Yeah, so what's he trying to do? He's trying to force me out. He's trying to make life miserable for me, and on and on and on. So again, it was getting progressively worse. Then it got to the point where, something, I don't want to stop. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to deal with this. So I said to myself, maybe I should transfer out from this guy. But then I thought to myself, I'm leaving my shift high and dry at that point. What kind of sergeant they're going to have that's going to replace me? Not saying I was the best sergeant, but I knew how to take care of people.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. There's people that didn't like me, and that comes with the course. So then I decided, no, I'm going to ride it out. I'm just going to really, really ride it out. Well, it came time for evaluation. I go to my mailbox. My eval is not in an envelope. It's just sitting there, and it had a Post-it note on it. I'm going to get to the Post-it note in 1 second. So, like everybody does when you get an evaluation, you read the comments, see what your score is, and all that stuff. Well, I was below standards, and I'm not bragging when I say this. I've never in my life was a below standards cop. By 3 years, never once. And then there was things like on June 1st, I talked to Sergeant DiBona about this, and he didn't comply. We never had that conversation. On June 2nd, we talked about this. And I said, wow, this guy's kind of like backdooring me a little bit. Then the further comment session was he recommended be terminated or demoted. And I just said, holy crap. I've been a cop all my life, since I was 21 years old. That's the only thing I want to do. And I'm telling you, it set me off. Let's go to the post-it note for a second. On the post-it note, he wrote precious with a comma. You're not going to like the eval. You know how to peel it, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the table I was sitting at, I flipped the table over and I pushed the papers off and I got pissed off. I was triggered. Here's why I was triggered. My sexual abuser used to call me his precious little boy. Now, hear me out when I say this. This is not his fault, the lieutenant's fault. He didn't know that. But first of all, it's unprofessional to call somebody precious to start with, And I said, wow. So I started developing nightmares now of my sexual abuse. And the nightmares were so bad that I could feel the physical pain of what I experienced when I was a kid. Yeah. And, obviously that's PTSD, PTSI, whatever you want to call it. Sure. So he called me one morning and I answered the phone and he said this, "Good morning, my little precious." And part of my French, I try not to swear as a Christian. I said to him, "That's the last fucking time you'll ever call me precious. You call me precious again, I'll kick your ass." So I got written up, obviously. I felt that nobody would believe me. And I knew he was buddies with the command staff and all that stuff. So somebody said to me, "Well, why didn't you file a formal complaint on this guy?" And again, we're going to go back to, I didn't think anybody would believe me. Because everybody kissed this guy's butt because who he knew and all that stuff. And plus, I'm an old school cop. Steve, we don't dime out of the cops.
Right.
We handle that problem ourselves.
Yep.
And then we move on from it. We may not be best of friends, but we can move on from it.
Sure.
And I'm okay with that. So I tried that approach. Hey, listen, you're pissing me off about this. I'm sure I'm pissing you off about that. Let's work this out. And it didn't. And it progressively got worse and worse and worse. So I was having nightmares about that. Now, people have different types of coping skills. One of my unhealthy coping skills is when I get stressed out, I eat. I'm a binge eater. I eat my problems away. So my food intake like tripled. And I was eating like at Burger King, McDonald's, Dairy Queen. Why? Because we get half price. That's one of the reasons why I ate there. Because that stuff gets expensive. And that's talk about retirement for one quick second. Now we have to pay full price for meals. That's difficult sometimes. So, and then I would drink a Diet Coke thinking everything's fine. But I started getting weight gain. So normally I weigh usually around back then I weighed about 220, 230. Well, I weighed myself. I was at 286 in 4 or 5 months. That's how much weight I gained that quickly. Yeah. But here's one thing is I never accepted responsibilities of my actions. Maybe I should tone it down a little bit. Maybe I should just kind of roll with it a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't eat that third donut. Maybe and all that stuff. Another coping skill I was doing unhealthy was I started drinking. Well, as you know, we like our bourbon. But I turned to tequila, so at 5 o'clock in the morning, I would come home because it's 5 o'clock somewhere and I would crack a beer or two, who hasn't done that? That's worked midnight shift, have a bite to eat, watch a little TV, whatever, you're unwinding and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, then it turned to a couple of shots of tequila to go with it. And then it got to the point where, maybe a couple of shots of tequila before I leave for work, kind of get the edge off a little bit. Then it got to the point where I kept the tequila bottle in my equipment bag on my front seat of my cruiser. And I would drink during the shift when I started getting amped up or stressed out or whatever. Well, this also affected my marriage. I started spending less time with my wife. My wife and I, we love going to the beach. We love live music. We love date night and all that stuff. I gotta be honest with you, I was avoiding her.
Right.
So we sat down and had that difficult conversation. So my wife said something that pretty much every cop fears hearing is you need to get help. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute here. where cops don't get help. There is no way. They'll take away my badge. They'll take away my gun. They'll Baker Act me, or whatever. That obviously caused marriage problems because I didn't listen to her, and it got to the point sometimes I slept in a different bedroom because I didn't want to hear it. Yeah. Now, what she was doing was 100% right. I'm not saying she was wrong by any means, but again, I wasn't accepting responsibility of my actions. So I appealed my evaluation. It got continued, and all that stuff. As you know, in police work, nothing happens in a day unless the bosses want it to happen in a day.
Right.
So I was sitting at a fire station one night. It's about maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, and FD went out on a call. And about maybe 5 minutes later, this car pulls into the driveway where I was sitting, and this woman slams on her brakes. I'm like, what is this? She comes running to my cruiser. She's holding her 4-month-old baby. And she says, my baby's not breathing. She's not breathing. Help me, help me, help me. Because she was driving to the hospital. She saw me sitting there, I don't care how much of a tough cop you think you are. That's an oh shit moment. Yeah, right. It's just, so I checked his pulse. No pulse. So I started doing CPR. I'm on the radio. I need an ambulance here now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. While I'm doing CPR, she's screaming, do something, do something, do something. Perfectly understandable, I started getting mad at her a little bit because I felt that she was yelling at me. And I'm like, can't you see me doing this? But then again, I'm not making excuses, but that's stress, that's anxiety, and all that. Well, I was able to get the baby's heartbeat back. And I said, finally, something's going good for me. Finally, something's going good for me. And then I never forget this, and I'm not being triggered by any means, but to this day, I can feel the baby on my arm. Right. And I remember when I felt the baby's pulse, I smiled and I said, thank God, thank you, Lord. And I wasn't a believer back then. I wasn't a Christian back then. And all of a sudden, the baby kind of twitched, sighed, lost, and stopped breathing again. The FD pulled up a couple of minutes after that. It seemed like it took them forever to get there. No, really, it didn't. But they put the baby in the ambulance. We go to the hospital. Obviously, I go to the hospital also. So I go to the hospital, and I'm holding the baby's hand while the doctors and nurses are working on it. And I had emotional attachment to this baby, obviously.
Yeah.
And I never forget this. At 2:14 a.m., the doctor pronounced the baby dead. My badge number back then was 214. A little strange, a little kind of creepy,
Right.
And so I said to the doctor, I said, how's this happen, doc? And he's like, well, it could be SIDS. It could be, a medical condition. We just don't know. And he said to me, are you a Christian? And back then I wasn't. I said, no, sir, I'm not. And I knew this doctor because we used to go in this hospital, ER all the time. Right. He goes, well, Mark, there's a thing called the Book of Life. And what the Lord does, he takes people from earth and brings them to heaven because he has a better job for them. And I looked at the doctor and I pointed like this. I go, you know something, doctor? That's bullshit. That's what that is. So I'm mad at the doctor. I gotta be honest with you, I was mad at the baby. I was mad at the family. But again, I didn't accept any responsibility of my actions.
Right.
So I go into my cruiser and I'm sitting there. I'm starting to have chest pains, have a headache, sweats. I'm twitching, I'm shaking, and all that. The first time in my life I ever had a panic attack. I went on, I'm sure you have too, several calls where people having panic attacks or alleged panic attacks. But I thought to myself, these are attention seekers. That's what they are. Right. That's how I thought back then. But now I experienced a panic attack, and I still have panic attacks. Wow, they're horrible. They're absolutely horrible. So I gulped my tequila down, and I left, and I drove off, and I'm thinking to myself, this is not cool. This is not good. So the next night I go to work. It took me about 45 minutes to leave my driveway. And I used to work on the other side of the county. And I literally sat in my driveway, just staring out my mirror, going out my front windshield, going, I don't want to go to work. I could not put my vehicle in drive.
Yeah.
And so I went to that boss. And I said, listen, I had a horrible call last night. I'm sure you read the report. Right away he starts talking about grammatical errors in my report. And I said, this was horrible. This is the quote he said to me: toughen up, buttercup. And he said, well, you can go to EAP. I'm not bad-mouthing EAP by any means, because since I've been a mental health advocate, I have worked with EAP providers, and some of them do a really, really good job.
Sure.
Some don't.
Right.
because they're not familiar with law enforcement, first responders, and we'll talk about that in a little while. So I went to our, back then it was called Critical Incident Stress Management Team, which is peer support. I went to one of the members of peer support who I respected, who I liked, and I told him what was going on. I left out the alcohol stuff. And he said to me, dude, why are you burdening me with this? I'm testing for sergeant. I can't have this going on in my life right now. Go to EAP. You get 3 visits, come back, and you'll be fine. And I said, wow, what happened to the brotherhood? The thin blue line, the one big happy family, all the sisterhood, all that stuff. So I just said, wow, this is really not what I expected. Not what I expected at all. Did I go to EAP? No, absolutely not. Because I'm a tough guy. I can handle this.
Right.
On and on and on. So again, progressively getting worse at work. So I put in for a transfer. I got the letter back saying we don't transfer problems, we fix problems. Like, okay. Just on a fluke, I ran into one of the patrol captains who I got along very well with. The guy was a great guy. And he says to me, hey, I'm glad I ran into you. I need to talk to you. I was planning to make a point to talk to you. Take it down a notch, okay? I'm hearing all about you, how you shouldn't be working here. He goes, this guy is out to get you. And I said, yeah, it's pretty obvious. He goes, but remember one thing, he hangs out with the sheriff. I said, okay. And I'm like, that kind of hit home a little bit, So I said, okay. I said, I appreciate you giving me the heads up and all that stuff. The nightmares progressively, now besides the sexual abuse nightmares, now I'm having nightmares of a baby also. I had nightmares where the baby was sitting in my front seat of my cruiser. There was times I swore I could hear the baby calling my name. And things like that. When I would go to bed, this is really strange, I would lay on the floor. Don't ask me why I would lay on the floor. I have no idea. I would lay in a fetal position with that bottle right between my arms. And I would fall asleep and eventually go into the bed. But I could not cope without eating, without drinking. But what I did, the worst thing I did, and if I could turn back time, and obviously I can't, was getting things right with my wife. That's what I should have done. Because let me tell you something, the job's not going to be there for you 100%. Your family will.
Exactly.
Definitely family will. So the nightmares are getting worse, and then just one night I'm at work, and I'm sorry. Let me back up for a minute. I had CPR renewal probably about 2 weeks after the incident with the baby. I'm doing the compressions on the adult mannequin. Everything's going good. No problem. I'm getting anything. They hand me the infant. I started getting dizzy. I felt like I was going to throw up. I put the infant down. I went into the bathroom. I puked my guts out. One of the deputies came in. Hey, Sergeant, you all right? Yeah. I think I got the flu or something. And I should be breathing into the mannequin's mouth when I got the flu. I get canceled training. And train people there. Okay, yeah, come back. Come back another time and all that stuff. What that was obviously was a panic attack.
Sure.
So people were telling me, people I work with, people I respected, hey, listen, you're this. We're seeing a side of you we never saw before. You're becoming a micromanager. You're starting to talk down to your subordinates, for lack of a better word, and this is not like you. And I'm like, I'm got a little bump in the road here, but I'm all right. I'm all right. And we say the mental health word, the F word. I'm fine.
Right.
So one night I was at work, and I was probably maybe like a quarter of the way into my shift, and I backed into a spot. And let me tell you something about working midnight shift, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Steve. Every cop that's worked midnight shift that said they never fall asleep while they were working is a liar. Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
Right.
We all have our little hiding spot.
Yep.
You put your radar on, so the radar will wake you up in case a car comes in.
Right.
I'm not saying you're sleeping for 2 hours. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But, a little cat nap, a little rejuvenation, or whatever. Yep. Honestly, I don't see a problem in that. So I started thinking to myself of what was going on in my life, and I could not find nothing positive. Literally, nothing positive. I look in the rearview mirror and I see this guy that's now about 50 pounds overweight. I see this angry, I don't give a shit attitude, and this is not what I was. I'm the type of guy I can make anybody laugh. I use my humor and all that stuff. But more so, I just wasn't the husband that I should be. So I started thinking about all that stuff, and then just like this, I'll show them. And so I wrote a suicide note. On the front page was to the agency, and it was absolutely nasty. I mean, what a nasty, nasty note. I have the note hidden in my house. I never show my wife it because I don't want to traumatize her from that note. And it was a nasty note. On the flip side was to my wife, and my mom was still alive there. I called myself a loser. Please, there's no way you can forgive me for this. My wife's name is Galen. Galen, you'll move on. You'll be somebody some another time. Mom, you'll be all right, and all that stuff. I'm a loser. I'm a POS. On and on and on.
Yeah.
So I took that piece. I took that note, like I'm holding this paper right now. I took that note, and I taped it to my rearview mirror with some crime scene tape, or evidence tape, I should say. And I'm staring at it. So hear me out when I say this. A recent study was 87% of cops that die by suicide die in their uniform, die in their cruiser, or die at work. To me, that's sending a message. That's and it's a horrible message. But the message I really truly believe is, look what you did to me.
Yeah.
And we deserve better than that. So I put the note there, and I grabbed my cell phone, and I called dispatch. And I said, I need to speak to my channel dispatcher, Alpha 12 Alpha channel. So the dispatcher answered the phone, and I knew her. I said, hey, it's Mark, blah, blah, blah. She said, oh, hey, Sarge, how you doing? I said, oh, I'm okay. And so I said, well, can you tell me who the on-call homicide detective is tonight? And she said, it's Jennifer Spears. Give you a little background on Jennifer Spears. She's one of my closest friends.
Yeah.
Phenomenal cop, but a better friend. You know what I mean? I mean, thank God I met her through work, and she's became one of my closest friends. So I said, okay. She said, well, do you need something? I said, no, just in case something happens, I can just call her directly. Don't have to do this third-party stuff. Sarge, you need something? I go, no, I'm good. She goes, hey, listen, I'm taking my dinner break in 2 hours. You want to meet like for coffee or something like that? I said, no, I'm good. She knew something was going on.
Yeah.
Just I know it's from my tone of voice or her being a woman, because women know everything, right? So or you can't get away with much with women,
Right.
So I said, no, I'm good. So I hung up the phone with her, and I put my head back. I'm thinking to myself, I got to do this. There's no reason why I should be on Earth right now. And I started pumping myself up, started getting motivated and all that stuff. And I truly believe this. Suicide's not about dying. It's about stopping the pain.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. And so I took my gun out. I looked at it a couple of times. I put it back in my holster. I'm like, no, there's no way. But I started hearing voices, and the voices weren't good voices. Voices of my abuser, voices of you're worthless. You shouldn't be here. Just end it, will you? And I said, okay. So I took my gun back out, and I put my head back on the headrest, and I put the gun in my mouth. And this sounds really strange when I say this. It was very calming. It was like a sense of relief. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, So I started putting some pressure on the trigger, and as I'm putting pressure on the trigger, I can see some headlights come up. It's another deputy, and his name is Craig McGee. He has since passed away. Also, just an amazing guy. Yeah, just a guy just a good cop, good person, great guy. He says, what are you doing, Sarge? And I looked him dead in the eyes and Craig, I'm here to kill myself. He goes, well, we can't have that, can we? I said, no, I said, live with it. I don't care. I said, Craig, drive away. I don't want you to see this. Drive away. He's like, I'm not going anywhere. So we talked for about an hour. He talked me down. Craig saved my life that night. No question. Literally no question about that. Craig saved my life. And he said, why don't you do this? Why don't you go home and why don't you find some help? At 5 o'clock in the morning, I'll go to your house. We'll go to breakfast, and then I'll take you wherever you need to go. Now, some people said, "Oh, that's probably not a good idea or anything like that." Craig was a brother. I think he believed me, and I believed him. So I went home. I called the watch commander. Hey, listen, I'm not feeling good. I got to go home. Whatever excuse I used. Went home, changed out, sat by my pool. My pool is like my happy place. I love it. I sit out there, I listen to music, watch TV. play with the
Right.
dogs. It's my wife and I's happy place.
Yeah.
So now I'm pounding the drinks now. I'm pounding them one after another. But also my gun was on the table. So I started thinking about it. I said, you know something? There's nobody here to stop me now. My wife may hear the gunshot. By the time she comes downstairs, I'm gone. She's not gonna say she's not gonna be able to save me. And I'm like, yeah. Now it's time to go. But I said, you know something? And it's kind of weird because I call myself the rock star of mental health. I need some rock and roll music right now to get the energy flowing. So I hit my CD player. For younger people that are watching, those are round things that music play, and so hopefully younger people are watching,
Yeah.
So I hit my shuffle on my CD player and a song came on, Even the Nights Are Better by Air Supply. That was my wedding song to my wife. It's a beautiful, beautiful love song. Really beautiful, great guitar solo in it, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
That's not what I want to hear. I want to hear some Hell's Bells. I want to hear some Guns N' Roses, I hit shuffle again, that song comes on again. I'm like, are you kidding me? Now I'm mad at my CD player. I think I pointed my gun at the CD player one time, So I hit shuffle again. The song came on, More Than a Feeling by Boston. Everybody's got a go-to song in their lives. That song that just puts you in that mode, that puts you in that beautiful feeling. If the song's on, you drive around the block one more time before you pull into your driveway.
Right.
That thing. And but that didn't help. That didn't help. So I put the gun back in my mouth. But when I closed my eyes with the gun in my mouth, I pictured my wife standing over my body. And I said, what kind of trauma am I giving her? Horrible trauma. Horrible trauma. What kind of trauma am I giving the responding deputies? Because I live unincorporated. What kind of trauma am I giving the paramedics? What kind of trauma am I giving my friend Jennifer, who's going to investigate my suicide? Yeah. What kind of trauma am I giving the dispatcher that dispatched that call? What kind of trauma am I giving to the crime scene people? What kind of trauma am I giving to my family, et cetera, et cetera? And I said, I got to stop. I got to stop. So I reached out to a buddy of mine who was in my wedding. He's a police officer in Massachusetts, very big into mental health. And I said, Bruce, I'm struggling, bro. I'm struggling. I've had the gun in my mouth twice tonight. He says, get to Boston now. He's like, literally right now. I will get you the help that you need. So I flew up that morning, drove to the airport drunk, no question about that. I left a note for my wife, gave her a BS story why I'm in Boston. I told her I'm going to take a mini vacation, on and on and on. Went to Boston. I went to the Boston Police Stress Unit, which is their peer support unit. And what I love about them is they'll take, if you're a cop in California, Hawaii, wherever, they'll take you. There's no boundaries. There's no, whatever. The two guys I talked to were just amazing cops, amazing people. They really, really get what I was talking about. And my friend Bruce was there also. So they said to me, we want to put you in a facility in Boston. It's called McLean Hospital. It's strictly first responders and it's military. No outsiders, no whatever. I think that's a good position for you. But we're going to ask you to go voluntarily because eventually work's going to find out. And it looks better for you if you go voluntarily. I said, well, how long am I going to be there? They said, a week. I said, okay, all right, that sounds good. Now I got to start accepting responsibility. So they slid over the paper and I go to sign it. And I said, no, I'm not going. I'm going back to Florida. I said, I'm going to call a cab and I'm out of here. They're like, well, obviously you're not going anywhere. So I was Baker acted, and that was tough. They called for a transport. The cop that came in was a young cop. And I was sitting in the chair and I was crying. And he points to me, goes, that him? And they go, yeah, that's him. Stand up, put your hands behind your back. They go, hey, listen, he's one of us. Yeah, you don't have to handcuff him. I'll go with you. I'll sit with him, on and on and on. He was the cop. Oh, you want me to violate general orders? Is that what you want me to do? I go, dude, handcuff me. Let's get this over with. So he cuffs me up, puts me in the back seat. I'm in the back seat of a police car. Normally I'm in the front seat. I'm behind the cage. And it was like the ride from hell to that hospital. It seemed like it took forever. So as I'm driving there, he looks over his shoulder while he's at a red light. He goes, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? This is stupid. I said, well, I wouldn't call it stupid. But honestly, that's lack of education also.
Yeah.
And he goes, you do what I do. After shift, I go home. My mother cooks me dinner. Then I go downstairs in the basement. I play Xbox. I'm like, okay, you're 25-year-old. You live with your mother and she cooks for you. Okay. International sign, loser, So that kind of pissed me off, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So we go into the facility, and I'm number 3 in line. There's a couple of people in front of me, and he's holding onto my arm like he's got like the death grip on my arm. I go, hey, bro, don't call me bro. I'm sorry. That's the way I talk. I apologize. You don't have to hold onto my arm. I'm not going anywhere. And he wouldn't let go. So I shrugged off him. I'm telling you, Steve, he did one of the best leg sweeps I ever saw in my career. Boom, face first down to the floor. That hurt, So now they bring me back to the facility, but now I'm labeled combative.
Right.
Everybody that's listening right now, if you haven't heard one word I said, I want you to visualize this. Picture yourself laying in a hospital bed with 4-point restraints, ankles, wrists secured. You're in a paper gown that pretty much covers nothing. You got a catheter hanging out because I refuse to give blood, refuse to give urine, all that stuff. And I was a hall patient. If people don't know what a hall patient was, so they have a room, you're in the hallway. And, this is downtown Boston. This is a big hospital, I said to myself, this is absolutely horrible. So they sedated me that night. I had probably one of the best sleeps I ever had that night. When I woke up in the morning, the nurse comes in and she says, hey, you ready to get, get these straps off and do this, that? I'm like, oh, yeah, well, I am so. She goes, hey, before we get started, I want to tell you one thing. My husband's a mass trooper. He was a client or a patient here about a year ago. So I understand what you're going through. And I looked at her, I go, no, you have no idea what I'm going through. I went off on her. Well, obviously the restraint stayed on. About an hour or two later, my mother comes in. She's crying. I'm crying. I can't hug her. She's holding me. I can't. I want to hug her. I want to hold her, and I can't. So she said, I said, Mom, take these restraints off. I'm all right. I'm not going to give you a problem. She said, honey, I can't do that. Now I'm pissed off at my mother also. So we talked, and I remember one thing. My mother looked me dead in the eye, leaned into the bed. She put her hand over my chest. My mother's a very touchy, lovely person. And she goes, honey, I believe in you. You got to get help. If you get help, I'll address my alcohol problem also. I said, okay, that's a deal, Ma. That's a deal. So I went through the program. I'll be honest with you, I lied. I lied my way through the program. I got to get back to work. I'm okay. I'm okay now. I'm fine. It was just a bad moment in my life. No big deal and all that stuff.
Right.
So I went to work and I disclosed it. I'm not here to badmouth my own agency by any means. I think also it's a lack of education on their part also. It's not the response I thought I was going to get. People made fun of me. They ridiculed me. I had a command staff person tell me, you're a walking liability. That's what you are. What are we going to do with you? If you shoot somebody, now you're saying you got mental health issues. That's going to come back on us. But here's what I thought was really strange. There were a lot of people that did reach out to me. Good people that reached out to me. But nobody in the command staff never once asked me, how you doing?
Yeah. And
I just said, if I came to work and said, and I'm not downplaying this by any means, if I came to work and say, hey, listen, I've got cancer and I need some time off for chemo, or whatever, absolutely. Let's get this done. There'll be car washes for me. There'll be fundraising, GoFundMe accounts, all that stuff. And I believe in that because that's the brotherhood and the sister, and I believe in that. But that didn't happen. Not that I was looking for money or anything like that. I was kind of looking for somebody to say, maybe have a little empathy and compassion for me.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really strange. So I found a therapist here in Florida, and I'm going to say her name, Jamie Bridges. I've been with her now for over 10 plus years. I still go to therapy, and now I'm on a maintenance plan. And she got me from my doctor's place to the place I'm at now, which is a good place in life. So I started doing public speaking about it. But when I spoke angry. I got no support from my agency. They're a bunch of a-holes, on and on and on and on. And I did a TV interview, and they asked me on the news what was the reaction to your issues? I said the reaction was negative. It's not what I expected. Well, obviously they caught wind of that. They brought me into the office and they said, you can't say that. I said, so what should I have done? Lied? Is that what I should have done? Well, I wouldn't call it lying. And I said, you got to be kidding me. Yeah, you know. Then they said, we're giving you a direct order from this point on that you would not say you're a Seminole County Deputy Sheriff in any of your presentations, media, or anything like that. We're going to make a PowerPoint for you. And all things like that. So, I mean, Steve, we know each other for a while. You know, that held no weight with me whatsoever, you know.
Yeah.
But I learned, one thing I learned was during my therapy was to accept responsibility, okay? Let's talk about the physical part for a minute. Accept responsibility about the overeating, the drinking, the attitude, all that stuff. Also accept the responsibility that I'm ruining my marriage.
Right.
That my wife has my back, but I'm pushing her aside. You know, the person that will stand by me through thick and thin. And so I started accepting responsibility. So why did I bring in the song More Than a Feeling by Boston? The lead singer of Boston, his name is Brad Delp. He died by suicide. He died a horrific death by suicide. He put a hibachi grill in his bathroom, put towels around the windows and the doors. And then when the flame burnt out, he breathed in the fumes and he died. In his suicide note, it said this: I accept all responsibilities of my actions. So I say it to say this: More Than Feeling is my favorite song in the world. I believe that Brad Delp spoke to me and said, you need to start accepting responsibility. And so I did. So I worked for a while. I'm diagnosed with PTSD, PTSI, and I'll explain that in a second. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. Some people call it PTSI, post-traumatic stress injury. I lean more towards the injury because a mental health illness is an injury. There's no question about that. I'm diagnosed with depression, anxiety, eating disorder. I had a little compassion fatigue going on, and all that. But the only person that can make you better is you. However, you can't do it by yourself. I'm sorry, right. You just can't. Yeah, you know. So through therapy, through medication. At first, I was dead against medication. I'm like, no, I am not taking medication. But you know, finally, I did. So I applied for the peer support unit 3 times. They denied me all 3 times. And the quote I got back was, well, you're going to come in here and try self-suicide. I don't know what the heck. Honestly, I really don't know what that means.
Yeah. What does that mean?
It's pathetic. So you know, so there's some up and downs in my career, but I knew that the majority of stress in my life, the majority of stuff is work. Okay. Now, you know this, we spend more time at work than we do with our family.
Right.
You know, we spend 86 hours every 2 weeks with our coworkers, with our job. That's not including working off-duty work, overtime, court, or whatever. And you have to have an outlet from the job. You have to. You just have to. Because, like I said earlier, I'll say again, the job may love you, but you may love the job, but the job doesn't love you. But your family will always be there for you. That was a major demise in my career, my personal life, on and on and on. So since I do in the public speaking, I volunteered for a couple of different nonprofits. Honestly, it didn't work out. Just their vision and my vision was just totally different. A lot of it was toxic. So what I've learned through my tribulations are, you can't control. Use this as work. An email comes down from the bosses. It's the most ridiculous email you saw in your life. You're like, what are you thinking? You can't control that, but you can control your reaction to it. And going off the handle is not the answer. It is just not. It's not the answer. Now, I'm okay with people, you know, vetting, getting off their chest and all that stuff. I'm okay with the circle of trust and all that. So, but I learned now that I control my reactions. In the later part of my career, the last couple of years, I toned it down quite a bit. Where people said, "What happened to you? You, the guy at sergeant's meeting, you're like, oh, this is ridiculous." I'm like, it's not worth it. It's just, to me, it's just not worth it, because I'm going to eventually bring it home with me again,
right?
And all that. So so long story short, I retired in 2019. I can be honest, I transitioned pretty easily. Of course, I had that one thing. What am I going to do with my life? That I thought, you know, something. Maybe I'm going to go work at Advent Hospital, work security there. Or maybe I'm going to go over to the airport and work for the airport police. But I thought to myself, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to the range anymore. Right. I don't want to go to EVOC. I don't want to go to defensive tactics. I don't want to go to legal updates. Nothing. I just want to close that chapter in my life. So I retired, and about before actually we celebrated anniversary 4 years ago, we started my organization called Protecting the Guardian. And what I love about Protecting the Guardian is that we started off with 4, we have 8 now, so we are expanding, but we're very down to earth. We're not into the glamour glitter. We're not into look at me or anything like that. But we truly believe in one thing. We truly believe in is sharing your story will help others.
Yeah.
Like I said right at the beginning, I'm not here looking for pity. I'm not looking for any type of, hey, I'm sorry what you went through. And I did. I went through some tough times. There's no question about that. But now I'm here to learn from them, and hopefully I can educate others for that, because I'm not the only cop that's ever done that.
Right.
And unfortunately, I'm not going to be the last cop either.
Yeah. And I was thinking earlier, because I've told people about, my diagnosis and everything. And, you get some strange looks from people like you're wearing it like a badge of honor. And it's not, I'm not wearing it as a badge of honor. It's like you said, I say that because I want that person to understand that I've been where they are.
Exactly.
And so it's better to let them know that they're not alone, that they're not in a place where somebody like me hasn't been. And
Right.
And so it's not, I don't throw it around there so people will feel bad for me, or so that I can use it as an excuse to avoid
Right.
taking responsibility for
Right.
certain things. It's because of that I do it, because I want to inform. I want to educate.
Right. And I'll tell you, this will probably sound weird to the cop listeners here. I used to, after my crisis and when I got better, I liked going to mental health calls. I liked going to Baker Act calls. And
Right.
most cops don't like that. Yeah. And I remember one time I was talking to this veteran, and what a nice guy he was. Just, I felt so bad for him. Did like 3 tours in Iraq, Purple Heart, saw some, he was telling me some of the stuff he saw, horrific stuff he saw. And I looked at him, and his name was Michael. I go, Michael, I'm going to talk about me for 1 second, but only 1 second. I never was in the military. I have nothing but respect for our military. I love and respect them. We have our freedom thanks to them. It's getting a lot better for them now. But I said, your mental health issues, I can relate. He goes, what do you mean by that? I had the gun in my mouth twice, and we just connected right there. Just connected to the point where I actually rode in the ambulance to the hospital with him.
Yeah.
And when they wheeled him, and I never forget this, when they took him out of his bed and put him in the wheelchair, wheeled him to the psych unit, he looked over his shoulder at me after we hugged, and he looked over it, and we just started bawling. And I had to go back to him, and I'm like, I gotta see. And I go, Michael, what should I do? I need my composure. He goes, let it flow, let it flow. And to this day, we keep in touch.
Yeah,
because we have empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And I mean, I said this a couple of weeks ago. Your story is a redeeming one, not just because of where it brought you, but the fact that you've shared here tonight. Hopefully we'll get somebody else. Like we said before, we went live. If we just touch one person with this tonight,
Amen.
We've done our job. We've accomplished something. And for those of you that are still watching, I know that you're used to me shutting things down here at an hour, but stick with us or watch the rest of it later on.
Yep.
We're going to keep going with Mark. So tell me a little bit more about your organization, Protecting.
So again, the organization is Protecting the Guardian. We have 8 members. We have 5 board members and 3 what we call ambassadors. And we so what do we do? We go speak at conferences. I do that quite a bit. We speak at training events. We speak on podcasts. Our goal is to get the word out about mental health illness. We're a nonprofit, so I say that for a reason. We don't go looking for money. Okay. Right. So I'll say this to say this, and we've done this. If a small department calls us up and says, hey, listen, I'd like you guys to come in and do some training for us. Ideally, the ideal training would be 8 hours. That's the ideal training, but we can do it in 4 hours also. If they said we can't afford it, we're going. Money's not an object. But we truly believe in what we do. And everybody in our organization has a story. We have a survivor in our group, Therese. her dad, I used to work with, Mark Smock. He 5 years after he retired, he died by suicide. And so she talks about that, and that's good to have like a non-cop on the board.
Yeah.
To talk about what she went through with her dad, how she saw his decline, and what happened after his death, and things like that. But we're again, I'm not bragging, but we're very good at what we do. We get great reviews. We're very transparent. We're an open book. We can tailor our training to whatever the needs are for the agency or the conference or whatever. I've been truly blessed since I started this. I've been a keynote speaker now 11 times at different conferences, and as you can tell, I get the gift of gab. But and again, I'm not patting myself on the back. That's not what I want.
Right.
Part of my, I can talk really quickly about part of my recovery was in 2018. I became a Christian. My wife and I the same night we accepted Jesus into our hearts. Sometimes I don't talk like I'm a Christian, but I think God's giving me a loose. When I go to heaven, it's going to be a loose sidebar there. Hey, that thing you said, So, but that changed my life. It is a biblical verse, Isaiah 6:8, and it says, "Who shall I send?" And then I say, "Here I am, Lord, send me." I truly believe that's my mission in life now. Is that now? Am I going to do this till I'm 100 years old? Probably not. But it's a good run, and I'm going to run as long as I can. With it. I've been blessed. They made me the president, and I've been really blessed about that. But it's not like it's like when we were working, asking permission to do things. President's only a title. That's all it is. So like we go around to conferences, like I told you off camera, March and April, I'm like book solid. I'm traveling like 7 times. And I just love doing that. And any chance I can talk to somebody about mental health wellness, I do. And like on a plane, the reason why I say it, because I talk about travel, I was on a flight last month, and I started talking to the gentleman sitting next to me, like, "Hey, what what are you doing when you flying out?" I run a nonprofit and for mental health. He's oh my God, my brother was NYPD. He died by suicide 2 years ago, and we had the greatest talk ever because he was so mad at his brother. I go, "Get me out," and that flight went by like it was 5 minutes. And he goes, after talking to me, he said to me, he goes, "Now I understand the trauma of the job." And all that. So that's what it's all about. The bottom line is it's about education. We're no better than anybody else. There's 1,001 mental health organizations out there for first responders. There's some that are very good. I can be honest, there's some that's not that very good. One thing I learned really, really quickly when I started establishing my speaking career was, again, we go back to the rock star of mental health. The song "Eye of the Tiger" by Survivor from the Rocky movie, right? There's a line in there that says, "When you lose your passion for glory," and now that's one thing I'll never do is lose my passion for glory. Not one bit. I just want to do the right thing, man.
Now, do you have any clinicians on staff?
We have Nick. He's a mental health professional. He does education now. He doesn't take clients or anything like that, but he does like the clinical side of stuff, which is way over my head. So, but yeah, we do. Yeah.
And you provide obviously resources for.
Yeah. If you go to our website, there's a resource page on our website. One thing I want to mention of resources, if you don't mind, there's an organization called, they're not on our resource page, so we haven't updated our Facebook. It's called First Responders First. Amazing people. Why I want to mention them was they have a retreat every year. I was invited to speak at their retreat, and they asked me if I would stay for the whole retreat, and I did. My goodness, they do some. I thought I was mentally sound. They brought up stuff. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I need to address that. It's all first responders. A lot of group therapy. A lot of speakers. Everybody spoke there. You could tell they were speaking right from their heart. Mick, who runs it, he's just a great guy, and I'm so happy I went because that was actually therapeutic for me also.
Yeah,
and also on our website we have a bunch of other resources also. They're all good. We've vetted them. We're not gonna put anybody on our resource page that's questionable or that we think that they're in there for whatever reason or something like that. So
Yeah, I've thrown the website
Yep, yeah, I see that.
address up there so people can copy that down for themselves or for others that may need it. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. You're the you know you're the expert here, so I don't want to share uh, all of my story, but I just wanted to share one thing, and I shared this with you when we had dinner. But my therapist, when I had, my last thing that really kind of broke the waters, um, she talked about carrying a backpack every day at work, and you're putting a rock into it every day. And sometimes it's that little tiny one, and sometimes it's that big boulder. And she said it
Right.
didn't matter what size it was that day. That was the one that broke the backpack.
Yep.
And so that's what I want people to understand is that you and I both have been, and I shared with you, I never had a plan, but I had plenty of conversations in my head, on my back porch, in my bedroom. My family would be better off without me. This
Yep.
world would be better off without me. The agency would be better off without me. And so I just want people to understand by me sharing, the backpack analogy, and that is just that, we understand and that we have been there, and it doesn't matter to what extent you have those feelings. We want you to find somebody that can help you with that, because
Amen.
here lately we've had several suicides,
Yep.
and like you said, some have been in uniform at the agency in the parking lot. Some have been at home, but and the ones most recently that have been at home, kids and spouses were present,
Right.
time. And so, like I'm glad you mentioned the survivor that you have on your board, because you know those folks that we leave behind, like when you were talking about your story, what trauma has been created there.
Mhm.
And so it's important that we get this message out to the first responders, because of course that's where our heart is, but at the same time, um, we want the families, the friends, the loved ones to understand what's going on, to see the trauma of the job,
Right.
and to understand what's happening in their significant other, brother, sister, father, mother uh, life, and recognize those things, and share this episode with them, because it's important that we get that out there.
Right. Never be ashamed to seek help. It's tough. It's tough. It really is. But you should never, I call it the check engine light. You're driving down the road and your check engine light comes on. The first thing you think about, how much is this going to cost me? Right. Right. But yeah, maybe it'll go away, and now it's the third, fourth day. All right. Obviously there's something going on there,
Yeah.
But the check engine light is a warning. That's what that is. That
Right.
something's wrong. You not sleeping well, nightmares of the job, not getting along with family, not getting along with your spouses, being on going off on people on calls, and stuff like that. Those are all signs, and you have to understand that there's a reason why you're doing that. Okay, and it's got a little bit better, but when it was at the prime of the anti-police culture, all you saw was cops beating somebody up, or perceived being beaten up, all that stuff. Now you have to look at it this way: one of the outbursts of PTSI, one of the symptoms of PTSI is outbursts. Okay, so you have a person that's normally kind of on the quiet side. Now is that roll call saying this is ridiculous, and on and on and on. Okay, there's something going on there. There really, really is. And that's when you have to have that difficult conversation.
Yeah.
We have no problem going on a call and talking to somebody on a call. But when we're parked car to car, why can't we, hey, Steve, I noticed this last couple of weeks, you're kind of on edge a little bit, or you've been quiet, something I can help you with, or something like that.
Yeah.
And some people will accept that. Unfortunately, some won't. But there's nothing wrong with receiving professional help. And professional help is not drinking 9 beers and then going to bed. I'm sorry. That's not.
Yeah.
Now, remember back in the day we did choir practice?
Right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, those were good times. Yeah, they were. But what did it really accomplish?
Yeah. No,
Well,
and
actually,
that's what I shared last week is, I didn't have I don't I didn't have what I perceived as a drinking problem as much as I knew that, and I didn't drink to black out,
mhm.
but I drank enough to pass out when I laid my head down in the bed. So I knew my
Yeah,
mind was
and that's pretty much the same with me, except when I was at work, obviously. Yeah,
right.
yeah,
So let me ask you this. You do a lot of traveling.
right.
Uh, you said next month you got a lot. So have you seen agencies that are doing it better than others as far as responding to their people, or are we all still kind of not doing enough?
Well, it's not where it should be, obviously. I say a couple of things. I believe a suicide should be a line of duty death, um, unless the cop just got indicted for like I don't know child molestation or something like
Right.
that. Okay, and or a murder suicide, and we don't address that in our organization. Murder suicide, absolutely not. Okay, it needs to be a lot better. You,
Yeah.
I hope some department heads are listening. Um, you got to reach out to your people. You got to show them that that line is okay not to be okay. Okay, that's it's to me it's a little overused now, but that's besides the point. You know, you got to show your people that you care about them. Okay, that they're not afraid to go to work and say, "Listen, I need a timeout. I need a couple weeks off. I can get my head together. I'm having marriage problems." Even if it's not a psych problem, if it's a marriage problem or
Yeah.
financial problems or alcohol or whatever. But I travel around the country, and I want to give a shout out to Houston PD. My friend Tim Whitaker, he runs their peer support. They got it going on. They have literally got it going on. They bend over backwards for all employees, not just sworn, all employees, and they offer mental health resources to the retirees also, which is kind of unheard of.
Yeah.
And there's no judgment. All they do is that whoever the boss is, and they say, "Hey, Mark DiBona is going to be out for a couple of months." That's it. If it comes from peer support, obviously
Right.
they know what's going on. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but they don't disclose. They don't put any pressure. So they're phenomenal. They really are. Going around the country, I think a lot of it, like I said earlier in the podcast, is I think a lot of it is they're just not educated.
Yeah.
But now think about this for a minute. PTSD, PTSI goes back to the Civil War. Okay, we're talking 1700s. Suicide goes back to biblical times. So this is nothing new. This is nothing
Right.
new at all. Here we are in 2025, scratching our heads, going, "What should we do now?"
Yeah.
And that's sad. That really, really is sad. So there are some departments like Houston PD, other departments, they really get it going on. But I also hear the horror stories of cops going to their department for help, and before they even say the first words out of their mouth is, "Give me a badge and give me a gun."
Right.
What have they just done? They've taken away your identity. Okay. Now give me a badge, give me a gun, stand in the corner until we figure out what we're going to do with you. Or we're going to reassign you now to a civilian position, or something like that. That's not the right thing. Yeah. Now, first of all, what cop doesn't have more than one gun? Okay. But that's not
Exactly.
the point I'm trying to make. It's just that you profess we're one big family. Okay. Well, let's start acting like a family.
Yeah.
All right. I granted families are dysfunctional and all that stuff. I get that, on and on and on. But there are some departments that they're just left out in the cold. Or they'll say, "My sheriff, my chief, he leads by fear and intimidation," right? And I'll be very frank when I say this, and maybe some people get pissed off when I say this. Some agents just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, all you are is a number. Yeah,
Mhm.
But don't forget, there's if it's a four-person police department or NYPD, which is the largest police department in the United States, all those departments have issues. Okay, but you've got to do better. I'm going to leave the department nameless, but one department had 7 suicides in 1 year. That's include retirees. That's a lot. Okay, so what they do? They had a mental health professional make a 10-minute video on mental health wellness, and it was mandatory training. Now, I only can speak myself, but I think you can relate to this, Steve. We watch some of those videos. You put play, and me and you sit there and we talk.
Yep.
Right. And then we hit send. Our boss is happy that we watched it, and on and on and on. What is that now? What is a 10-minute? A 10-minute video is not going to save lives.
Yeah.
Especially coming from a non-cop. Now I say it to say this. Departments have got a lot better. Now they now have mental health professionals that are on their staff who do ride-alongs with the cops, who get to know the cop culture, because God knows we're a little out there. Yeah, they get to learn all that stuff, and so that's big also. But here's the thing. I guess my long way I'm trying to say this: mental health wellness should be taught in the police academy. Oh well, you have 40 hours of community policing, but you have an hour of mental health wellness. Not saying anything against community police. I'm not saying anything negative to get that. So that should be in the academy, and it should be taught by an instructor who's been there, done that. Yeah. Not some guy that wants to make $50 an hour teaching at the academy.
Right.
I
read a book.
And then also it should be in service training. It should also be post-retirement, because a lot of people, including myself, when I retired, I didn't know what my drop payment was going to be. I didn't know what my monthly pension was going to be or anything. We should be preparing for all that. And then also it should be taught in your retirement.
Yeah.
Also. And it's very, very simple, because like you said earlier, if we say one thing that hits home to somebody, bingo, we did our job. But agencies fail to do that. And then we hear this quite a bit in Protecting the Guardian. Hey, listen, we'd like to come to your agency. How much is it going to cost? But you'll go out and spend $50,000 on a tank. Not saying we don't need it, don't get me wrong, but how about spending $40,000 in a tank and $10,000 on mental health wellness?
It's going to cost you one less funeral.
Exactly. Then also, it should be taught in anybody's in a leadership position. Should be taught mental health wellness also. Because like we've been saying through this whole podcast, we spend more time with our coworkers than we do with our family. Okay. Now I took it as a compliment. When I was active, I would get calls from other sergeants. Hey, do you mind coming out and talking to this deputy or something like that? Which I had no problem doing. But shouldn't you be doing that also?
Yeah.
Shouldn't you be educating yourself? Well, I'm not that good at that. Well, make yourself good at that. That's why it's got to be. Now, we'll use block training as an example. Okay. You're going to block training for 40 hours. You're reading the syllabus of what block training. 2 hours of mental health training. Most cops then go, "Are you kidding me? I don't need that." And just, but yeah, you do. I don't care how much of a tough guy, tough girl you are. Everybody's that listening to us right now is dealing with an issue. Yeah. They're struggling with something. As much as I like think how mentally sound I think I am, I still have my issues also. And everybody does. The person that works at 7-Eleven has issues. Okay, the chief of police, the sheriff, they have issues. All right. But when you don't take care of your people, there's an issue. Now, I'm going to leave I'll leave this department nameless also. I went out and did a presentation for them. So they said to me, the chief of police wants to meet you. I'm like, okay, yeah. He wants to take you out to lunch. I said, okay, that'd be great. So I get done with my morning session. I walk up to the chief's office. He's at the top of the stairs, the chief's office, big letters, chief of police. Right next to it was the peer support unit. No, with a camera. And so we shake hands. I go, Chief, before we get started, you're probably going to hate me. That's got to go. It needs to be off site. Oh, why is that? I said, no, you climb the stairs. The first thing you see is chief of police and you see a camera. No cop's going to walk in there.
Yeah.
And so he has changed that sense. And he's a true believer. He emails me once in a while. Hey, I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm like, rock on, man. Beautiful. I love to hear that, But then I get this a lot too. Well, we're a small department. We don't deal with a lot of crime. We police affluent areas and all that stuff. That's ridiculous. That's what that is. The people that need that are the ones who are in gun battles every day. Well, first of all, you're not in a gun battle every day. Okay, and so we got to go. We're a bit of that, but the key for mental health wellness on the department's point of view is education. That's the bottom line. And I'm not bragging when I say this, and please don't take this wrong. You need people like me to come in there and share this story and say, listen, I'm an alpha male. I was the first guy through the door. I love putting my hands on somebody. I love that stuff. I love running code. And all that stuff. but this took me to my knees.
Yeah.
I never would. You know, when I got sworn in on, and I remember like it was yesterday, June 6, 1985, when I got sworn in to the Braintree Police Department. If you told me in February of 2025 you're going to be on a podcast talking about your suicide attempt, well, first of all, I'd ask you what a podcast is. But second of all, I would win. No, there is no way, way in hell, you know. And and another thing also, and I'm kind of going on a rant here, but another thing also is you have to address the police suicide. You can't just push it aside. You can't hide it. Now, if the families say don't announce it as a suicide, respect that. 100% respect that. But this should be a learning curve also for you. If the family's okay, you announce it as a suicide, well, guess what? The chief, the sheriff, not the captain, not the undersheriff, the chief or the sheriff, the department head should go on TV and talk about that. Yeah. Unfortunately, I lost a deputy sheriff today. It's the elephant in the room. But like I said earlier, this is nothing new. This is nothing new at all, you know. And so that's what we gotta do. And I've seen departments, they've came a long way. But I've also seen departments where I said to myself, what are you thinking? Yeah, you know, like I talked to a training captain from a department out west who's thinking about having us come out. He's like, well, first of all, we don't have any mental health problems in our agency. So I said, so what do you want us for? I called him right out. He's, well, I don't want to disrespect you, but you're a checkbox. I got like that. I'm not gonna lie, that pissed me off. Pissed me, you know. But I said to him, I'm gonna let that one slide. But here's the deal: you do need some training, because how big's your department, Captain? It was about 45 of us, and you know all 45 members. You know them personally, where everything's going great for them. Is that correct? Well, no. People suffer in silence. That's the point I'm trying to get at. You know, we got to do better. We really, and that's for all first responders, not just law enforcement, all first responders. Sure. But I'll tell you, who mastered peer support is the fire department, because after a major incident, without another call, they go back to the station and they sit at the kitchen table and they talk. And I've been at the table with them, and the fire department has literally mastered peer support, in my opinion. However, now think about law enforcement. You work for a busy agency. You go do a traumatic call. The next there's 5 calls holding. You're sergeant on the reel saying, "Come on, go answer those calls." Yep. Where's your peer support? Yeah, none. You know. So, also agencies should prepare people for retirement too. You know. Yeah.
That's definitely both of those are not done. That is for sure.
Right.
So. Well, we got to an hour and a half.
All right.
I not that I was like, again, I'm not timing anything out. So
you can pay by the hour?
I do. I get paid by the hour, so I'm trying to push it. I know everybody's trying to. Some people are probably sweating trying to get off here to watch the hockey game, so that watch the Americans get into a bunch of fights against the Canadians again. So
you see all those fights?
Oh, beautiful! 9 seconds, 3 fights.
I know, that was great, wasn't it?
So, I saw they showed one of they took Trump and they threw him on top of the Canadian guy, and it says like, "Boo our national anthem again, North Mexico." I was like, that's beautiful, North Mexico. So,
that's funny.
I'm going to call Canada from now on North Mexico.
Hey, let me talk about President Trump for 1 second, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this. Well, a lot of people know he's a big advocate for law enforcement. There's no question about that. I'm going to say this for a reason. I used to go to peer support training for a big city in Central Florida. I'm going to leave it nameless. I used to go in there and I do a 2-hour block for CIT, share my story, officer wellness, things like that. Well, I was speaking one time, and I had a picture of President Trump in my presentation. And here's exactly what I said. Whether you like the guy or not, this guy does the right thing for law enforcement. He just signed a bill providing $76 million to first responders for mental health, wellness, suicide prevention. Again, whether you like the guy or not, okay, he did the right thing. Well, I offended somebody in the room.
Of course.
Of course. Yeah, exactly. So that got back to the organization. They called me the next day, said, "You're no longer invited to our training." So I asked them why. They said, "Because you spoke well of President Trump." So you mean to say you put your political views in front of your officers' mental health, wellness, suicide prevention, because you don't like President Trump? And my exact words, that's bullshit. That's what that is.
Yeah.
And I've never heard from them since. What a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we talked before we went live. UCF Restores is starting a new program, so I'm interested to see where that
They
goes.
do amazing work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was at UCF Restores, and so, I again, before we get out of here, and Mark, when I play the outro, if you want to stick around
Yep.
on the camera for a minute, we can talk
Yep.
afterwards. But I think Mark and I both agree that what we hope you get out of this is that we understand. We've been there, and all we want to see is you get the help that you need and that you deserve,
100%.
wherever that may be. So if you are struggling right now with something in your life, with something from work that's causing you some issues, you've got Mark's website right there. You can reach out to them. Reach out to somebody. Get the help that you need and you deserve. If it's immediate and you need to talk to somebody right away, the suicide hotline is 988. Get on the phone, and it's not like Mark said. It's not. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. I struggled. I went 3 months where I would sit in the woods where I worked in my patrol car backed up and just cry.
Yep.
Not knowing what was wrong, not knowing what was going on. And if it hadn't have been for Mark, if it hadn't have been for Craig showing up and talking with him that night, had it not been for the person that reached out to me, my incident happened June 28th, 2022. In September, somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, how you doing?" Had that person not reached out, who knows where the story ends. So we don't want your story to end. We'll pray for you. And if you need help, reach out and talk to somebody, please.
If I could say one thing, Steve, also, here's some advice. It's only advice. If you're struggling with a work-related issue or issues, try and find a mental health professional that's somehow affiliated to first responders. Give you an example. My therapist, Jamie Bridges, is a retired Orlando cop. So she gets the cop stress, all that stuff. And when you look for a mental health professional, you can ask them, do you do anything with first responders? No, I don't. Well, you might want to move on from that person. However, I'm not saying that person's a bad person. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
If you want to give them a chance, by all means. But I think first responders feel more comfortable talking to somebody that knows our business. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's what I preach. And I just want to say one other thing also, and I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget, is in the last 5 years, we've lost 684 active and retired officers to suicide. 684. First of all, it's estimated. But second of all, in my personal opinion, the number's probably higher.
Yeah.
Over 100 active law enforcement officers are diagnosed with PTSD, PTSI. Now, those are the ones that went to a mental health professional and said, yes, you have it. The number's probably triple. Because I think anybody in the first responder world has some type of PTSD. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
And my last thing I want to say also is 1 out of 4 active law enforcement officers have thought about suicide. Cops who are listening right now, that your zone partner could be thinking about that right now. Or anything like that. We got to do better on helping each other. And I call it the difficult conversation. You got to have a difficult conversation with a coworker you believe that's struggling, but you also have to have the difficult conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
And I say this line all the time. I'd rather talk with you than about you. Every time I hear about a police suicide, it breaks my heart. It literally, and the first thing that popped in my mind is, were they getting help? I hope they were. And I've been now to, I've had 4 friends of mine all die by suicide, all 3 active, 1 retired. And I've been probably to now about 20. If they're local or if I'm traveling, if there's a funeral for a law enforcement suicide, I go to it. I go to show my respect. And but one thing I've noticed at these funerals, they're not jam-packed. Yeah, they're not. They're just a couple of them didn't even have department heads there.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, wow, that's just too bad, And again, don't be ashamed to ask for help. It's a tough thing to do because we're helpers, we're not helpees.
Yeah.
But when you get a toothache, eventually you got to go to the dentist.
Yep.
Yeah, and
We're supposed to
hopefully
be the therapists,
right.
helping everybody with their problems. But
Right. And also, and I kind of really didn't touch on it, is two things. You gotta have an outlet from the job. Okay. You can't be a cop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You just can't. I say this line, take time to make time to take time. Okay. Take a week off. Even if it means just having a honeydew list or just hanging out at the house or spend a couple of days at the beach, whatever you like doing, do, and it's going to make you feel better. Don't worry about when you take a week off from work and you're saying to yourself, oh my God, they're probably going from call to call and all that stuff. They'll get by.
Yeah.
They'll get by. Like I had people I used to work with, they were on vacation and they would have the computer on and they have the catch screens pulled up or calls going on. And they would call me on the phone. Hey, what's going on with that call? I'm like, I thought you were off tonight. I am. Remember Frozen? Let it go. And one more thing also, there's life after the job.
Yep, absolutely.
There 100% there is,
Yep.
So I was talking to a guy, a girl, a flight attendant on a flight one time. And I was one of the first ones to get on the plane. I started talking with her. And I tell all the flight attendants, hey, listen, I'm a retired cop. If you need anything, please let me know, and all that stuff. They're always, we really appreciate that. We really, really do. So it was a little Spanish girl. She's probably about 5'2" at the most, and probably weighed about 100 pounds. So I said that to her. She smiles at me. She goes, you don't think I can handle my own? And I said, oh, ma'am, there's no doubt. She opens up, she had like a smock on. She takes out her wallet. She's retired NYPD. And I said, she goes, you know something? I love my job. And I said, I am so happy to hear that. I am so happy to hear that, So I want to tell you one quick story about a retiree, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
So I was at a Wawa right before I retired, probably maybe a month or two before I retired. It's about 3:00 in the morning. I'm pumping gas. This car pulls in next to me. Guy gets out. He waves to me. He goes, "Hi, busy night," or something like that. Just we start small talking. I said, "No, it's a good night." So he walks over. Hey, just want to let you know I'm retired off the job. From NYPD, because Florida's full of NYPD retirees. I said, "Oh, thank you for your service." I said, "What'd you do?" He goes, "I did 25 years. I was a homicide detective, and all that." So obviously he worked for a living. And so I said, "Oh, cool." So he pulls out his neck badge, and he's got his badge on. He's got a morning band on his badge, and he's got a couple of his awards on the badge. And he goes, "Well, I wear this all the time." So I said to him, I said, "Well, why do you wear it all the time?" And he goes, "Because I feel like I'm still on the job when I wear this." And I honestly, I can tell, I felt bad for him.
Yeah.
He goes, "Yeah, like I'm driving down the road. I pull to the side of the road and I'll put my badge out the window if I see a traffic stop, and I hold my badge out and all." Now I respect that. I got in a drag out fight one time where an off-duty cop jumped out and helped me.
Yeah.
But here's the point I'm trying to make is there comes a point you have to separate. You have to, yeah. I mean, I got my little "I love me" wall here. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I got my thin blue line T-shirts I wear, all that. But this guy was probably 70-something years old, and he goes. I said, so I go. Oh, I said, so what are you doing out at 3:00 in the morning? I said, you visiting your girlfriend? He'll make it a joke. He goes, no, I just ride around. I look for traffic stops. I look for cops to talk to and all that stuff. I can be honest, I really felt for that guy. I really, really did, So I gave him my card. I said, if you want to talk, if you need anything or anything like that, please reach out. And never heard from him. But I thought to myself, that's not going to be me in my retirement. Now, I respect it. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But, I carry my retirement badge in my wallet, obviously. But he wears that 24/7, and he had a gun on, and the whole 9 yards. And I just thought to myself, I really, really feel for this guy. So I asked him, "Are you married?" Or she goes, "Oh yeah, I've been with my wife like 40 years, and she goes to bed early." And you're in your golden years, man. And it broke my heart. It really did.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to be that guy. I just can't. Now, don't get me wrong. Being retired, if I'm driving down the road and this cop rolling around with
Oh
somebody,
yeah.
well, I'm gonna be the first one to jump out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Or I see something that I think I need to react to. Now, being retired, we can pick what we need to react to. You know, yeah, which is a plus. You know,
Yep.
but I just felt so bad for that guy.
Yeah.
You know,
No, find something, guys. But
amen.
it doesn't have to be the reserve unit. It doesn't. I mean, there's plenty of things going that you can get involved in that
Right,
you don't have to throw that crap on anymore.
right.
Well, I appreciate everybody being here. If you liked what you saw, definitely recommend it to people. Tell them to go to YouTube, Spotify, like and subscribe. Pass this along. It's a very important show, very important information to get out there. So thanks again, Mark, for being here. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate your story. And we'll definitely, Andy just said great show. So we'll definitely reach out to Andy and try to get together and have some dinner. And
Yep. I haven't seen Andy in a long time. Well overdue. So yeah.
Yeah. So
Andy's a great guy.
sounds like a plan.
Thank you, everybody, and God
Yes.
bless you. Thank you for what you do, and definitely stay strong.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for being here, guys. And we will see you again next week. Mark, if you want to hang out, I'll talk to you in just a second.